This legend is very real. The most well-known part of the legend came from the natives that inhabited the states before they were states. He was not the ruler of the night, he was the night. Its beginning is little known, but he was known by the name Capella. It was said he had the head of a demon goat. But in the legend no one ever saw him and lived to validate the rumors. It followed those that were marked and waited until its time came. 30 days after the mark was placed it came out of the shadow only to vanish into another shadow, leaving its lifeless victim. He is called the Goat-Head Man now and has become a scary story to kids. Some still believe it is real and still wonder about unknown murders. Were they doing it? Mythipedia.com. I've taken the majority of following from certain entries pertaining to this particular subject in a journal I found hidden in a suitcase of junk at a sale. I have read everything I could about it and researched the whole urban legend, but the answers are so few and far between that I still don't know what to believe. I'm not superstitious, but it's a good story. November 2nd. I think I've met my dream girl at the county fair today. She was wearing red Converse shoes and a green jacket with blue jeans. She has blonde hair, of course, and beautiful black eyes. She is tall for a girl, probably around 5'7", and looks to be athletic. She was with some people who I suppose must be her parents, and they were walking around the animal show yards when I saw her. It took me some time to find a way to bump into her or something for an excuse to meet her, but I figured out the perfect idea. I decided to jump right in and went to the water balloon vendor. It was only a quarter for a balloon, and I could chuck it anywhere in the crowd, at anyone. I picked the perfect green balloon and looked back to where she was walking down the line of vendors. Her parents were not there, apparently having stayed behind at the animal show, and she was about 40 feet away. My talent at throwing has always been halfway reliable, but this time I completely lost it. My throw was intended to hit the ground at her feet and splash her just to get her attention. Somehow, I overthrew so far and hit her right in the face. The balloon burst and soaked her face, hair and jacket. I'll keep it short. She had the most shocked expression for a second before running to the water balloon tank and grabbing a bucket and filling it full of water. I was still frozen by what I had done. I came back to reality when I was doused by a large volume of water soaking me from head to foot. Needless to say, that was how we met. Her name is Haley and she is 17. We walked around for a couple hours and I bought us both hamburgers. She loves animals and has 2 dogs. A matching pair of boxers named Whiskey and Tequila. Her parents' names are Ashley and Keith Sheldon, and they are really great too. I asked if she wanted to go bowling on Friday and she said yes. Definitely a 5-star day. November 4th. We bowled all night and had an amazing time. I've never enjoyed myself that much before. We told each other our life stories and talked about our futures. It was really great. I know Haley and I are destined to be best friends. When we left the bowling alley and walked out to the car, she seemed a little nervous and stayed close to me, which I didn't mind. I used to be afraid of the dark, so I know what she was feeling. On the drive home I asked her if she was scared of the dark, but she said no. She said, "I just don't like what comes with the dark," whatever that meant. I asked her a little more, but she brushed it off and changed the subject. We listened to the newest hits on the radio and sang at the tops of our lungs. I noticed that she was frequently glancing out the window as if she was searching for something. Once I thought I saw something running along the sidewalk like a deer, but then I saw it was just the shadows of the trees swaying in the wind. I stopped at her house and went around and opened her car door. She walked to the front door with me, trying to act normal, but I could tell something was scaring her. The door opened before I knocked to show Mr. Sheldon, and Haley dashed in, then turned and quickly asked if I wanted to come in. We watched a movie, but they kept all the lights on for some odd reason. I think I want to marry her someday. November 6th. I went over to Haley's house for dinner with her family today. Her mom is an amazing cook and she taught Haley well. Her pizza is much better than the pizzeria. We talked about all sorts of things and they told me how they moved here and about Haley growing up. Apparently she used to be quite the tomboy. But she must have been the prettiest tomboy there ever was. They must have moved here because of something that happened in the last town they had lived in. I haven't been told why they moved. They avoid the subject whenever we talk. Haley is the best friend I have ever had, it's like she reads my mind. I can't get enough of time spent with her. November 15th. Haley needs someone to lean on right now. Mr. Sheldon died suddenly while at work last night. He was 43 years old and had been perfectly healthy. The police say it was a heart attack. It happened in the middle of the day while he was exposing pictures in the dark room at his photography studio. I went to the police station with Haley and her mom. While there I saw a picture of him after they found him. He had no signs of a wound or bruising, but there was something dripping out of his nose. It was translucent and looked like he had had a cold. Mrs. Sheldon knows something. When she heard everything and saw him, she went hysterical. Haley helped me walk her out. Poor brave girl. I drove them home and made sure they had anything they wanted. I can't even imagine what they are going through right now. I asked Haley if she wanted to talk, but she said no. She's really quiet and wants to be alone and think. I told her I could come over tomorrow, but she thinks her mom needs some quiet for a few days and asked if I could wait for a little while. I don't know how to help her. November 18th. She just called and asked if I could come over. She needs someone to talk to. I want to cry with her and just make her stop holding in all the pain I know she is feeling. We went to her room and sat on the bed and she started to tell me more about her family. I didn't know what it had to do with anything, but I do now. When she was in school, they went on a school trip to Mexico. The people were good people and seemed to enjoy the tourists. Late one of the nights she snuck out with a friend and visited the bar, and after a few drinks they wandered around until they stumbled into the house of Jurilla, the village witch, as the children called her. Her two friends thought it would be funny to take a witch souvenir and both tried to pocket charms that hung over the door as the woman appeared to sleep. She started to speak without opening her eyes. To me you come in search of pleasure, make sport trying to steal my guard beads, to you I give the gift of the mark. When the days and nights make 30, Capella himself will visit you. They laughed as they left, but Haley said they had uneasy feelings in their stomachs. When they reached their room, they discovered that neither of her friends still possessed the trinkets they had stolen and placed in their pockets. It was passed off as a lame night and stupid coincidence, and they all retired. Early the next morning Haley woke feeling fine and almost thought the previous night had been a strange dream. When she went to put her makeup on, she realized that her eye color had suddenly changed, from a light blue to raven black. She began to start worrying when she found the mark on her stomach beside her belly button. A three-pointed star with an eye in the middle. It was not a birthmark, there was no way it could be so perfect. Both friends had the same marks and eye color changes. It worried them greatly and they tried to find the house of Jurilla again, but none of them remembered where it had been. The day to return home came and went. Haley returned home and tried to forget about the whole occasion, but it kept coming back to her. She began to keep account of the days since the mark had appeared. Her mom started to notice a change in her behavior and asked Haley about it. She tried to pass it off but finally told her everything. It was day 15 when she told her mom, and that night she had the most terrifying dream or vision or something. She was walking home in the evening and saw a shadow that flitted through the dark night air like a wraith. She walked faster, becoming nervous, and suddenly froze in place. Her whole body was frozen, and she could not move. A shadow materialized out of the darkness and then blinked and disappeared. She held back a scream and then her body was free to move again. She turned to run and saw it. It was a shadow. The outline was like a starved human, tall and gaunt with arms that hung down almost to the ground. The head was like an animal. Not a cow or dog but like a goat, and she shrieked. As she stared at it in such fear and dread, her head felt like it was on fire and she screamed louder. Her mom woke Haley and tried to get her to talk about it, but she could not mention it for 3 days. Her father got involved and learned from her what had happened. They researched the thing the witch had mentioned. Capella had a history, and the more they dug the worse it got. The 27th day was the day they found how to stop it. Mr. Sheldon found an old fortune teller that knew a spell to stop it. That was 6 months ago. They thought it had gone forever. Haley and Mrs. Sheldon still don't know how the spell failed, but it did, and now they are in danger too. I have never heard something this crazy, but I believe it. Haley can't lie, and especially not to me. I'm scared now. November 19th. I just learned from Haley that the police discovered the mark on her father's stomach in the same place she had it. He had never mentioned it to her or her mom. Apparently he didn't want them to worry. Mrs. Sheldon also just revealed to Haley that she has the same mark. It appeared on her stomach the night Mr. Sheldon died. That was 5 days ago. If the witch's chant is true, she has 25 days. Haley showed me the mark on her stomach. It is faded and looks more like a birthmark now, accepting the shape. We have to find out more about this curse. Why has it spread to Haley's whole family after she survived it? I can tell Mrs. Sheldon is acting strong for Haley, but the death of Mr. Sheldon and now this is weighing on her a lot. She has aged years in the past week. I feel so bad for her, but I can't even imagine what they are going through. I can only hope to help stop this horrific pattern from repeating itself. I would rather die than let anything happen to Haley. November 21st. Anna Mara is the only person we have found that has heard of Capella. She is the fortune teller at Thunder Circus Company. She says she is descended from a line of fortune tellers, all of whom were gypsies. Her eyes went wild when Haley mentioned the name of the specter, and she made several gesticulations in the air in front of her and spoke an incantation before she responded to us. She said that the chant cancelled her association with our purpose here. I tried to convince her to tell us, but she would not speak and kept looking around her as if expecting something terrifying and unexpected. After no answers to any of the questions we asked, Haley turned and began to walk out of the tent. As we passed out, we heard Anna Mara's voice behind us whisper quietly, "Pray, nothing can save you now." December 4th. Nothing has turned up yet to stop this nightmare. New events have developed that make our search more time sensitive. I must not fail Haley and Mrs. Sheldon, although I don't think Haley is in danger as of right now. There is so little time. Mrs. Sheldon had a vision and passed out while in a grocery store today. She said the lights went out in the store and everyone immediately ducked down as if in terror, screaming, "Gee man, it's Goathead Man." Her feet were stuck to the floor, but her body remained fully functional. Then she saw him. The shadow-formed monster drifted through the dark atmosphere. She held her hands over her mouth to stop her scream, but she was right out in the middle of the lane at the ends of the aisles. He didn't appear to see her, instead moving or flashing in and out, appearing closer to his victim. The horns that seemed made of air looked like razors on top of the sparsely haired feral head. The man was older and sat against a crate of potatoes with his eyes tightly closed and his face white. He sensed something was very wrong and turned to look around the box, but there was nothing there. He looked around the other side, but there was still nothing. A glimpse of the dark figure gave his feet wings as he leapt to his feet and dashed towards the exit doors. He ran 10 feet and stopped as if he had hit a wall. There, in front of him, stood the thing Capella. As his eyes looked on the ghost-like face, his eyes grew wide and turned gray, then his head jerked, and gray substance poured out of his nose, mouth and ears, and he was left standing there like a horrific corpse. Its gaze shifted and rested on Mrs. Sheldon. Its hands flew up and extends farther and farther into hoof-like claws as it rushed towards her. Then she lost her senses. It is getting worse. I have never seen someone so nervous. A complete breakdown in Mrs. Sheldon is imminent, and I have to hurry before other things happen. It is day 20 since she was marked, and 10 days since Thanksgiving. Someday it will make sense why I said that. December 7th. I can't give up hope for Haley's sake. I don't know what she would do if I lost my composure. I am more scared than I have ever been, but I have to stay strong. I have to keep calm. I want to scream and go crazy. But I won't. She hasn't even shed one tear through this whole month of hell. It's more sad that she hasn't cried than if she screamed a river of tears. I can't focus to write anymore. December 14th. We hoped. I tried to hope. I have been trying to give love to Haley to try to help with the pain, but I don't know if it's enough. And now it's too late. Neither of us left her mom all day or evening. We tried to eat and laugh. Mrs. Sheldon tried to reassure us by saying maybe nothing actually was gonna happen, but she knew that was wrong. I still hear it, her scream. How can something like that be allowed to happen? She was only in the bathroom for a minute. Haley was sitting beside me and suddenly turned and kissed me on the mouth when she saw it over my shoulder. The light under the bathroom door went out. 15 seconds, that's all it was. A shriek that was so unearthly that all my body shook came from the bathroom. When we opened the door, it was already too late. She had been scared so badly that her brain had liquidized and was running out her ears and nose and mouth. Haley screamed and fell down beside her, gathering her up into her arms. I held them both, trying to comfort her. What do we do? I will have to be strong while I can for Haley. Life is a collage of unfair events that chose to destroy all this beautiful angel of a girl held dear. Jan 1st, 2017. Day 1. My name is Haley Sheldon and I have a story to finish. I'm sorry that it won't be long or a happy one, but I can only finish what my perfect match love started. His name was Jeremy Lance and he was murdered on December 24th of last year by an unholy spirit conjured upon my family by a sorceress in Mexico. The 2 friends that were with me died 30 days after, but I was spared. My family and lover were the price of my freedom. Oh, what a price. He never told me he had been marked. It would have been on Thanksgiving and he suffered silently to spare me additional heartache. But how can I go on now? How do I keep going knowing he is out there still? Will he return? Am I safe? How do I escape Capella? That is the story from the journal I obtained in a suitcase of junk at a sale. Is it true? I don't know. But I have seen something in the shadows outside. It may be just the wind, it may be nothing. But can I be sure?